Very good afternoon, a very august gathering, and I thank LROC people to invite me to moderate this panel, which is like a cream de la cream of the Academia of Calcutta. So while I invite the speakers, I'll request them to take one line to introduce themselves just and their school, so it becomes more relevant to understand. My first question, or before I start the question, I think we'll wait for a while. Timing has started. In the meantime, we can have one-line introduction of all the panelists. That will be better. I'll start with Dr. Murala.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Anuradha Das, a teacher at the core of my heart. Presently, I'm director of Garden High School. I look after the Shonapur branch, and I'm the chief academic advisor of the Shrutikattu Guru Foundation. I'm into teachers training and coincidentally into curriculum development and content development for science and mathematics. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Good afternoon. Myself Rajesh Surana. I'm the founder director of Magnus Global School in Baltimore. The school is pretty new, and I'm also very new to the education industry. I started my education journey when I started the school 8 years back. Thank you.
Good afternoon, esteemed educators. This is Dr. S.P. Datta. I am the principal of Krishnagar Public School, Nadia. And honestly speaking, I am still a learner. I am here more to hear from everybody and learn from each other. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm the principal of Vellabharti School, Kolkata. Apologize.
A very good afternoon to all present here. This is Mrs. Joyita Majumdar, principal of Delhi Public School, Barashat. I've been in the education sector for the last 30 years, and I worked as a principal in 2 other schools before this for the last 13 years. My journey in the education sector has been very enriching and very enlightening. Thank you so much.
I am Rupaka Sharkar, principal of Umakne for Girls. 34 years in teaching and still learning. Excited to meet my fellow educators. That's one incentive that I come here for, besides learning from each other. So I'm looking forward to this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, good afternoon, and we'll formally begin our discussion. Myself, Dr. Parthasarathi Ganguly. I am into higher education and school education. I'm into school education for the last 20 years. I'm an engineer by training and a marketeer by profession. In the year 2000, I started my journey into pure education, and 2004 onwards, I'm into school education as well. We have 3 schools right now, one in Sonarpur, our flagship, Jyotirmay Public School, and then we have started 2 schools recently, one in Odlabari, Jalpaiguri, and one in Patsagas in Bobra. You know, when I was approached to moderate this panel, what excited me is that this topic, beyond textbook, is what we have just started using in our Odlabari school, that going beyond the textbook. And learning has no limits. Very honestly, what I would like the panelists to share their minds on is, there are 2 things that is looming large. One is our uncertain future. Actually, we don't know. The students that we are teaching today will be going to a workplace 20 years after. What will be the complexion of that workplace? What will be the character of the workplace? How the students will work? What will be their organogram? We don't know. So how do we actually create somebody or guide somebody to a future or a place which we don't know? My father knew what a government office is, and he wanted me to become a government officer. So he knew, and we were always guided by our fathers, who was the Google for us. But today your students knows that more than you. So with that in mind, that is one. Another is, we all sometimes forget that we are 150 crores, 1.5 million people. Now sometimes we devise something, we create facilities, infrastructure. I'm not saying it is wrong, but it's not inclusive in nature. It doesn't reach out to everyone. So with these two things, how you can become inclusive and how you can prepare students for an uncertain future, our topic is going beyond the textbooks. So my first question is to Dr. Anuradha, that what kind of curriculum development you are doing in your school and how you are doing it and why you are doing it. Means what kind of curriculum development you are doing in your school, so that we can go beyond the textbooks, and how you are doing it and why you are doing it. So Dr. Anuradha, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ganguly. You set the tone right, and by asking the right question to me, I hope. Yes, I will first tell you why we are doing it, and then in short, how we are, because we are 1.5 years into the process now. Now, why we are doing it? Picasso had once said that all children are born artists, but the problem is to remain an artist when we grow up. So I'm sure he meant that all children have talent, but we squander them, and pretty ruthlessly. This is so helplessly true for most of us teachers. So I thank the organizers of EduLearners Summit of thinking along these lines and giving us an opportunity. Hope one day we will stop this disservice to the children who look up to us for their support. I once, heard a lecture by Ken Robinson quite a few years back. He was talking of a very, very interesting story of a 6-year-old girl who would not listen to any of the teachers but sit at the back of the class and just draw. Once the child was asked, "What are you drawing?" And she said, "I'm drawing God." At which the teacher said, "But none of us know what God is like." To which the little girl said, "Well, you will know it in 2 minutes after I finish drawing." So this is a very interesting take, that children will take a chance. If they don't know, they will still go for it because they are not frightened of being wrong. I don't mean that being wrong is being creative. And I don't also mean that creativity is just drawing and painting and singing and dancing. But it is the ability to produce or use original and unusual ideas. Unless we are allowed to make mistakes, we will never come up with anything original, and by the time they become adults, most children have lost their capacity to be original. They are frightened to do the wrong because we adults have stigmatized their mistakes. That is what happens. All these prompted me to think beyond the textbook, which is the traditional textbook. I'm not going against any textbook. We need a framework, but apart from that, we have to go beyond so that we teach children to deal with complexities and to think about the future, as Dr. Ganguly said, the future that they will see and we will not, right? So, 2 years back, how much time do I have to? Okay, so just 2 minutes on this. 2 years back, the physics paper of one of the boards really put the children through a lot of difficulty because it was a paradigm shift from what they were used to seeing in their textbooks. That is when we thought that we will make them think, and much earlier, from middle school. So in classes 6, 7 and 8, without touching the scope of the boards, we have started developing the curriculum for physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics, where 5 to 6% of all their question papers are on application skills and analytical skills based on the syllabus. We're not changing the syllabus, the curriculum and its scopes and sequences. They do projects and they present these, and they also do demonstrations. I think more when you ask me questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll go to timing short. I will request the speakers to restrict to within 4 minutes. Dr. S.P. Datta, may I ask you, what strategies have you successfully used to make classroom learning more experiential, inquiry-driven, or skill-based?
Thank you, sir. I'll start with the common saying. I'm sure all of us have heard about this, that you can take the horse to the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink water. But with talent, as we all know, before taking the horse to the river, if you add or if you give hay to the horse to eat, and while you are giving the hay, add a pinch of salt. After feeding on that, the horse will be thirsty. And that is what, that pinch of salt we need to bring in our classroom. When we are talking about textbooks, which basically is the framework, but when we are talking about curriculum, it is actually giving life to that framework. If we say textbook as a skeleton, it is ultimately the curriculum which should be aligned in such a way that gives the muscles, the nerves, the life of that framework, of that skeleton. So as teachers, it is very important for us to plan. In today's world, we all know there are a lot of things available. We can just refer to the Google, we can just refer to various organizations who are providing us with a lot of products, and today itself we have seen some of those beautiful products. But beyond that, I always believe in one thing, that is the Jadui Pitara. This Jadui Pitara, each and every teacher, each and every one of us has, and that is something which is unique in all of us. So let us not only as teachers explore that, try to find out ways, but also ask our students to find out ways to think, act differently. See, most of the things many of us are doing in the classroom, in our schools, while we are going for subject enrichment activities, or when we are drifting from the so-called shock and talk method to activity-driven or hands-on activity. We are doing a lot of experiments in the staff room, in the lab. We are doing a lot of handwork. There are a lot of things. But sometimes we can think whether you talk about English, whether you talk about social science. Basically, I'm sure most of the teachers, most of the school in social science, you are not only having the mock parliament, we are not only having an exhibition or an electoral board, but we are also having historical site visit. While we are talking about the maths, we are having a lot of unique ways to interrelate maths with IT, and we are trying to find out different ways through which it becomes interesting. But a simple thing which I personally enjoy is making up the question papers. You know, my dear friends, generally I ask my students to prepare their term 1 question paper, their term 2 question papers. What we do generally, we ask the students to prepare the question paper which are first moderated by the teachers, and we tell them to redraft that so that they can understand today what we understand by competency based. Today, let them critically think how to think the same thing in a different manner. You can praise, just it's how we praise, how we present ourselves, how we talk about in a different thing. Yes. So this is one thing. We have to also think that how we can inculcate 21st century skill. I'm sure the lost child, we all know, in class 9, one of the chapter, on that you can have a prayer so that they can get the pulse of it. Whatever we do, in whatever we do, let us take small initiative. It is I understand time consuming, challenging, but ultimately that is what the future. The answer we are not going to get in the textbooks. The questions are of life and we have to prepare them for life. So we have to inculcate the curriculum in such a manner so that we can make, like Sir Ma'am rightly said, future citizens who are ready to face the world, not a bunch of robots, but they can use their individual human intelligence in a different way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll come to Madam Apollo. But before that, I can't but agree with him that first boy in class is not necessarily the first boy in life. In order to be first in life, you need to learn from life itself. And that opportunity is what we need to provide to the students. So, Madam Apollo, may I ask you, how do you think educators can balance the demands of the board prescribed curriculum or content, and at the same time you foster creativity, critical thinking, and real world activity? Madam, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. The time is a most important factor here when we just rush through what our thoughts. Now, being in the education sector for over 35 years and over 15 years as principal, there's one thing constant I've found in all the 3 jobs of change as principal, that is a paradigm shift in education every year and shifting trends almost every month. Because we are looking at the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, am I right? I'm getting it right? So there is a shift, a paradigm shift from curriculum to co-creation. There is also a shift from teaching to tinkering. And there's also a shift from classrooms to communities. Because ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, and they do not only want to learn, they want to know how and why. So the question comes, are we creating for them or are we creating with them? At Birla Bharati, that is my school, we have already started shifting gears. We flipped the hierarchy, where the child is at the top of the pyramid. And we believe that it's not only teaching, the child needs to be heard and seen. So when I'm on my rounds, I make it a point every day to walk into a class, with substitution periods, and have a heart-to-heart talk with the students. We also have small wins Fridays, where the students are encouraged to talk about something very small, but they have been proud, like scored a goal, finished a book, or even an act of kindness and generosity. Because, dear audience, when the children feel that they are seen and heard, they rise. And when they rise, the community rises. So Rise in Community in Birla Bharati is through a blended curriculum. Blended curriculum means from the textbook, there is a curriculum which gives, a structure and discipline. But at the same time, the real life examples which make the knowledge more holistic, more applicable, and more future ready. Now from 2023 onwards, we have started a project called Angrezi Medium. I have spoken about it in some of the platforms. This is teaching English to children in rural Bengal, in Bashanti, Goshaba, North and South 24 Parganas, and in Sundarbans. So we started as a pilot project with the help of a Rotary Club of Calcutta, Aviana. I'm a member of the club also. And you'll be interested in knowing that this was an online project. 59 children were involved from classes 8, 9, and 11. They were trained to teach these children twice a week. So we got them the schools in the rural areas, and we trained our own students. What happened, initially the mentor became, the mentee became the mentor. It was a flipped classroom actually, and the students faced a lot of roadblocks. Initially they were not willing, they are not listening to us, and the language was a big block. But once they started going, once the rapport building developed, every week they have classes, we still continue. Twice a week, 1 hour each. I think that's very doable. Most of them have the classes after 7 p.m. because children of class 11, 9 and 10, they come back from the tuitions and then they start. Let me share with you one incident which happened initially in 2023. One boy of class 11, his mentee, he was in Goshaba block. Now he was unable to take the classes because after 7 p.m. that boy's father, who is a daily laborer, he came back dead drunk and he would take away the phone. And mind you, all of them have smartphones. I don't know if you're aware of it. The only problem is the connection, the internet. So he was not being able to teach for over a month, and then suddenly he decided to gift a phone to that boy. Now, Then the mother contacted the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club contacted me as a principal and said he's wanting to give a phone. Then we explained to the boy that there is no give and take. You can't give a cash or you can't give a gift. But we can do a problem solving here. So what ultimately was decided, we spoke to the boy, we spoke to the parents. The classes were shifted from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that, and the boy who was teaching, he truncated his tuition timings when he started teaching earlier. So what we see over here, a very important point developed, there was critical thinking, there was problem solving, and there was empathy developing. So we at Birla Bharati believe in real projects, especially the Interact Club, real projects, real empathy, real compassion. And the tech tool, which the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, they believe is their oxygen. They use it to learn, to build, to collaborate, to create. So we use that tech tool to cross geographic barriers, to cross socio-economic barriers and reach out to Sundarbans. And this project was covered by the Telegraph also. And I end by saying that this paradigm shift continues. It continues because the generations are changing. And today we find this again a shift from memorization to meaningfulness. There's a shift from content to capability, and from rigorous curricula we move on to resilient learners. They are the resilient learners. Because ladies and gentlemen, the future is not inherited by those who know the right answers, but those who know how to ask the right questions. Let us teach them how. That is education. Thank you.
Thank you, Apurva ma'am. It's nice hearing you. May I now go to Madam Joyita? Madam Joyita, I have a question for you. What role do you believe interdisciplinary learning should play in today's curriculum? And how can it be effectively implemented?
Thank you, sir, so much for the question. I think I'll start on a very basic fundamental problem which all the school facilitators, leaders are facing in today's time. There has been a huge gear shift. In fact, we are crossing the bridge in terms of going from rote learning, from the textbook curriculum to hands-on experiential learning. Now this change is not easy because the facilitators, the teachers of today have taken their training at a time when there was no talk about skill-based learning. They are deep-rooted in the curriculum which was taught to them, and what was taught to them is how to teach the students of tomorrow. That was deeply rooted in the textbook and a very structured form of curriculum. They are finding it extremely difficult in the current times to relate to the students, to relate to the curriculum, to relate to the changing syllabi of so many subjects, and to come down to skill-based learning. If we refer to the current professional syllabus of the teaching sector, which includes the B.Ed, the Montessori courses or the DLEd, we find that it is once again patterned in a very traditional manner. There has been no change whatsoever. But as school leaders, what we face is when the freshers come as teachers, they want to join the education sector and they want to start off. There is a huge expectation that we will be able to transform the curriculum and shall be able to take it forward from there and shall be able to teach the students based on a very different rigmarole. First, the facilitators have to learn what they have to teach, they have to understand what they have to deliver, and the students will have to relate to what they are actually going to train on. The NCF, National Curriculum Framework, has somehow envisaged a lot of problems, from teaching in the traditional orthodox pattern to the modern day teaching of a skill-based learning. Hands-on skill, working with the digital tools, working with the digital boards, working with the iPads, working with computers, is not something which was practiced, but there has been a sudden change. Now, if teachers are finding it difficult, we will have to give them that window of time for them to get trained. And as some of my fellow panelists have just mentioned, that the training is so rapid and ever changing in everyday life that teachers are finding it difficult to keep up with the pace of the changes. Now, once again, we come to a very important segment, that this change had to happen. The inevitability of the change had to happen because there is a need of employability, a strong employability when you are finishing your education, when you are finishing your graduation, your post-graduation. Now where does that tool of employability come from? One has to be skillful. One has to be a skilled person when one graduates in order to get a good job. If we practice a hands-on learning, if we can give a skill-based education as is being promoted by the CBSE on a very, very strong note in the current times, then we will have to make a lot of transformation. I also would like to make a very strong point here that the hand-holding by the school leaders with the facilitators in the classroom scenario with the students, and another very important vertical of this entire picture are the parents who themselves have taught themselves in the curriculum of the structured pattern, and to bring them all on the same platform and to get this whole national curriculum moving is one of the biggest challenges that India is facing today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Very insight to this problem that we are facing. Now, I will come to Rupaka ma'am later on, ma'am. I'll just take up from Mr. Surana. Surana sir, my question to you is, how do you go about bringing textbooks, I mean going beyond the textbooks by, inculcating curiosity in the mind of the student? So what we are talking about is going ahead or beyond textbooks. So it has to be driven by some curiosity. So how do you inculcate that curiosity in the student? So we are shortage of time, so stick to 4 minutes. You can check the monitor here.
Definitely. Good afternoon again. I'll start with a quote from Albert Einstein, who said that, "I'm not extremely talented, I'm only passionately curious." So basically, if we are talking about, we talked about multiple things here, and we are talking about we really don't know what our students will be doing 20 years down the line when they get into the job world or work world. So what we're teaching in the textbook, we are basically limiting them into a particular framework, and we are giving them a one-directional teaching. But we have to go beyond that, and we need to make the classroom as more curious, more asking questions. We can, like what we do, in that we have questions of the day. You inculcate the behavior in the classroom where students are encouraged to ask questions. What you teach them in the textbook, you need to go beyond the exam. You cannot limit them with only the knowledge that they're getting from the textbook. You take them to the field, you take them to the park, you make them visit places and ask them to come back with questions and let them generate curiosity about why it is happening and how it is happening. As a teacher, I don't think we have the time where we are just giving directions or instructions. We need to be the facilitator. We need to inculcate that behavior where they will ask questions and we will try to facilitate. It's not that we're going to be giving them answers. We need to make them get the answers from the real world. Because once we go out of the school and we are getting into the school or college and getting into the corporate world, our actual learning begins there. And if we don't make them know in terms of how to learn in an environment where there is no real time teacher, but real world is the teacher, I think that's where they will be successful in their life. So ultimately our job is to not really make them score high. Our job is to ensure in life they get the high position, and that is possible because I know I come from a corporate background, and I tell you very clearly, we use a very less amount of what we learn in our textbook. We learn on the job, and we need to ensure that we are able to adapt, we are able to make things what is in front of us and get things done. There will be no teacher who will instruct us to get the job done. So that is where we need to understand that it is not about the textbook. We have to go beyond the answers, and once we go beyond the answers, that is where the curiosity begins. That is where the learning actually begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Surana sir. And we really understood where we are heading. Now I would like to come to Rupaka madam. Madam, we always say कि आज के तुम्हारे नहीं पढ़ाओ. Today I am going to teach you this subject of this paragraph or this topic. can we think of a classroom where the student decides what he wants to learn, rather than the teacher saying what he or she wishes to learn?
Thank you so much. I think the first thing that I need to say, and this may not sound very, what should I say, pleasant to our ears, but actually we know very less of the children whom we are mentoring. We know very less of their world. So it's high time we relearn, we reskill ourselves before we should enter the class and be a facilitator. You know, we have a big syllabus, as Sir said. Do we ask our children, what do you want to learn? Because I'm sorry to say, if we ask that, that will be a very difficult question, because we do not know, or we may not be that adept to teach what they want to. So therefore, it's time that, you know, we start from, so how do we navigate this? We start from their area of interest. All of us, I'm sure, have heard and have practiced flipped classroom. Have we done that? Flipped classroom, where we give a topic and we ask them to teach. We say, you prepare the lesson and you come back and teach. So we have done this a number of times, and what we find that most of the lesson is covered by them preparing it their way and presenting it their way, and it opens our eyes and we realize that I wouldn't have taught it this way. And then after that, there are certain critical questions which they need to focus on. We can, as teachers, then facilitate their movement in those critical thinking areas where they need to focus. So I think a flipped classroom is a very good way of allowing the child to say what he or she wants to learn. I have a girl, I will not name her, but she generally, you know, gives us the slip, okay? She's never found. Always, if we ask, where is Miss So-and-so? She's in the corridor, ma'am, she's just coming. But by the time you start teaching, you forget about her, and then you realize that, where is she? Oh, ma'am, I think we'll have to find out where she is. Most of the time she gives the slip, she manages, okay? And the excuses that she gives are very, very believable ones, okay? So now, when we saw on Teacher's Day, that same girl, lovely dancing, you know, all the steps were one after the other synchronized. So the teacher at the back asked me, how does she remember the steps when she can't remember her studies? That's because she likes dancing. So she remembers the steps. She does it beautifully. She's in the first row. But in the classroom, she gives us the steps. So maybe it's time we ask our children, how do they want to learn? You know, we know of many children who like to do things with their hands. But do we have any way of teaching or starting a lesson by doing a craft? I have to learn before I do that. And there are only a few things that I have learned. So I'm still learning. But there are curriculums that are now made where when they teach physics, when they teach chemistry, they first do it in front of the class. Then they ask the children. So there are ways of learning. Some children learn it better by moving around in the classroom. We are not approaching the syllabus as per the interest of the child. We are still doing our syllabus as per what we had done 50 years back. We may say whatever, we have changed our question paper pattern though, because it has to be, the board has changed, so we have changed. But our syllabus transaction has more or less remained the same.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I'll come back to you. Dr. Manav Kumar De, Principal of Mount Lidera Z School, Barasat. Sir, my question. Barampur. And so my question to you is that, you know, how can we really go beyond textbook? That means, shall we have textbooks or we should not have textbooks at all? So that is my question to you. What in your school you are doing about taking the students, you know, taking them out for a walk beyond the textbooks? So that's my question to you, sir. Sir, please try to be within 4 minutes.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Sorry, actually I was late here. Anyhow, the question is there that beyond textbook. See, when we are going from formal education system, definitely books will be there. Whatever it may be, textbook, printed books or e-books. The thing is that we have to think of a modern education we are talking about. We are using so many tools, equipments, and evidently now AI has come. But we forget our tradition. See, if you see the Indian education system, and think of that mythology particularly. I'm giving example of Mahabharata or Ramayana. Did Dronacharya teach anything to Arjuna or any other Kaurava or Pandava with a textbook limited with that? No, not at all. So they knew it very well, what to be done, the field experience, experiential learning, everything was there. We need to revive modern education system, what needs it was there. So we forgot. Certain schools were there, they used to follow, but maximum schools only traditional methodology, talk about teacher-centric education, or maybe I'm chalk and talk. See, as a teacher, when I'm going to the classroom, I forget that yes, students are there, maybe 30 or 40 students, but I feel I am master, I know everything, and they will be passive listeners, I am only active speaker there. This temptation is there with each and every teacher. And somehow, some of us, we can come out from, some of us still, we are in that stage. That's the problem. So when we talk about real life experience, only a textbook, reading that and appearing in examination can give a certain marks. What about real life experience? And what I believe, what I've seen, this my trainer, maybe teaching or maybe principal say, the students, those who are getting 95% above, and they are confined to their learning in the books itself, and afterwards, they can't become a good employer, they are becoming employee. That's the difference here. When we just restrict them rather, in a confined book or maybe certain paradigms there, when we talk about the experience, when we are throwing them out of the box, that is required. We talk about competency-based education, NEP is there, NCF, lot of changes are there. Are we accustomed with all changes? We have to think. Again and again we are talking about, we give training to the teachers, but afterwards, when we are in the classroom, we forget half the things. We go as usual. Until we know that change is constant, but still that change is not there. So when we talk about experiential learning, when experience is required, that we forget and we are again restricted to the books. We know very well, examination will be there, boards are there, syllabus to be completed. Maximum people are covering the syllabus. Nobody is discovering the syllabus. That's the problem. I believe in certain acronyms, at school particularly, for students. School, if you go for school should be 6 or 7 crucial hours of our life. It's not cruel hours. Are we making it crucial or we are making it cruel? Still we are in MRF theory. Memorizing, repeating and following rigid instruction. We have to change it. We have to transform it into RDD. I believe in that. Research, design and development. If it is not there, we can produce some students with some certificates, marks, and afterwards whatever employability. So beyond textbook, we need to wait, but we have to go in such a way where the students will get every real life essence. They need to know how to struggle when they are down. How to build a team. Because the students, those who are getting marks, sometimes they are isolated.
Sure.
They can't build a team there. So I know very well that I am constrained here, but main point is there. Let us all together take this position to nurture our beloved students. Because with their fingertips, they know everything. We are not there to give mere information. We have to give insight to them. That is required.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I believe in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. One thing that is common in the panelists is that yes, we need to change and we need to go beyond textbook. What normally happens is we shun that boy out in the class who asks a question in ours which is a silly question. But you know, all the changes in this world is because of that silly question. The unreasonable man makes the world change to himself, and that's why all the good changes that has happened in this world is because of that unreasonable man and that silly student asking a silly question. So we need to go out of that. I have only 2 minutes with me. So a quick round, half minute each. I'll request Apula to start with, be only half minute.
Yes, no, I just wanted to make a very quick point. We're talking about NEP and how the education is not in silos. Just want to remind you, in ancient India, there were the 64 kalas. There were the Vedas, the Vedantas, there was astrology, astronomy, Nyaya Shastra, there was Buddhist scripture, politics. And these were taught in the universities of Vikramashila, Nalanda. Remember, we studied it, Takshila. There, the students were allowed to they select their own teachers. They could study at their own pace. And ultimately, India had really become the hub of international education, where all the Asian monks, etc., had come to our country. So I believe what was there has been brought back today by the NEP, and what Rupa ma'am said, the students should be allowed to study what they want. Thank you.
A good practice will be to make students question the student. So when they make their presentations in class, we divide the class into 2 halves. It's sort of a quiz between the two, and students ask their peer questions, which makes it very interesting, and they're all exerting themselves much more if they have to ask a question. I think that's a very good way of thinking beyond the textbook.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, on a last note, in the many years later, when we are going to study the history of education, this time, this era in the history of education is going to be denoted as one of the most fascinating times, because so many changes have taken place, and we are having to struggle to battle with the changes. So all of us in the room, let us take a pledge. Let us write down the history of today's educational times very carefully. Thank you.
Sure.
So, one thing I would like to request all, let us try to overcome the fear of failure, whether as a student or a teacher or a principal or a management. This is something we all need to overcome. Thank you.
Sunasa.
Yeah, I'd just like to end with a quote. Benjamin Franklin once said, "You tell me, I will forget. You teach me, I may remember. You involve me, I will learn." And that's why we need to go beyond the textbooks.
I just want to say at the end that, we have special needs children in our classrooms, and we are giving them special needs teaching. There are qualified teachers, but I think time has come when we have to get united. The boards must make certain provisions, not the same question paper, but a different question paper for them. Otherwise, it's like that diagram we have seen, that the elephant also has to climb the tree and the bird has to swim in the water.
Thank
so
you.
why do we still have the same question paper?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, only half a minute.
Yeah. So, see, I do believe, and I always say that we need very good IITians. IIT here doesn't mean Indian Institute of Technology. We need the students to be independent, innovative and thinker. That I say always. So let them become IITians and independent, innovative thinkers, nothing else. They can excel in their life. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. What is common is that, yes, there is a fast pace of change with disruptive technological innovations. And we must prepare our students for that change. They should not get intimidated by the change. They should try to become the change agent themselves and ride the change wave instead of getting washed away or drowned by the change. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We have come to the end of it, but I'll take 2 minutes from the organizers. Is there any question from the audience? 1 or 2 questions, if there is any, we can take that. Since there's no question, we once again thank you very much, and also thank the panelists for their wonderful deliberations, exciting our minds. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such an interesting panel discussion.